the rest of the kings had opened their home to her, but she wasn't entirely comfortable at Dragon. She still carried a lot of animosity and resentment toward all kings. She was getting better at letting go of the past, but it would take more time. A lot more time. Which had made Zora sound so much more appealing. Imagine her surprise when she arrived to learn that the dragons detested the kings and anyone associated with them, including Melisse. They didn't care about anyone's backstory or their reasons. They had a blanket hatred that no one, not even Branda or Eowyn, who the dragons loved and adored, could penetrate. Then there were the humans on the realm. They knew about the dragons, and their loathing for all things magical was shocking and terrifying. War was brewing, a war the kings were desperately attempting to stop. The twins helped to keep the dragons pacified, but Melisse wasn't sure how much longer Eowyn and Branda could accomplish that. If the Dragon Kings abhorred one thing above all others, it was humans. Who could blame them when the mortals had forced their ancestors to abandon their home? The rain faded to a drizzle before gradually stopping altogether. Melisse flew to the top of a mountain that had become a favorite and landed. She searched for Evander, finally locating him farther northeast along the border. He had been tasked with watching the northern boundary, while Hector surveyed the south side near the sea. The eastern and western borders were also being guarded. That's what things had come to, watching and waiting to see who would make the first move. Melisse had flown over the entire swath of land claimed by the dragons. It was vast and beautiful. They had mountains and plains of flatlands, valleys and lakes, canyons and deserts, plenty of room for them to roam as they pleased. When the dragons called Earth home, they had once been in clans dictated by color. Now they created their groupings, and the color combinations were stunning. She wished her father had been able to see such a sight. He had fought to do away with the clans, but the culture had been too ingrained even then. She shook, sending droplets flying from her scales. Then she shifted to her other form. The dragons thought she was human. She had once attempted to tell some that she was Fae, but they didn't care to see the difference. She looked human, and that was all they cared about. Melisse sat on the cliff's edge and let her feet dangle over the side. She drew in a deep breath and let the icy air fill her lungs. The trees were an array of yellows, oranges, and reds mixed in with the evergreens. The smell of autumn hung heavy in the air, its brisk, crisp scent a harbinger of winter soon to come. She gazed at the thick, steely clouds hanging over her. Zora had been made in Earth's image, and it was sometimes difficult to remember that she was on another realm. Then she would listen. She enjoyed the absence of human sound. There were no engine roars and no people noise. Utility poles weren't sticking out of the ground with lines connecting them to ruin the landscape, nor were there any paved roads. Zora was as wild and fierce as Earth had once been, at least within the borders of Dragonland. Outside those borders, humans and elves had civilized their respective regions. There were cities and villages, armies, and even conflict. She couldn't put that squarely on the mortal shoulders, since her ancestors on her mother's side had waged a brutal civil war that lasted so long that it destroyed the Fey realm. Ree had since healed it, and from what Melisse had last heard, the Fey was slowly beginning to return to the Fey realm. It didn't seem to matter where Melisse went. Chaos and anarchy were everywhere. All she wanted was a place to be herself. Her mother had done the impossible long ago and moved between realms before the Fae learned how to construct those doorways and follow in her footsteps. Maybe Melisse should be like her mother and find somewhere new. It would mean leaving everything and everyone behind, though. She had to give it to Con and those at Dragon. They did their best to make her feel welcome and included, and it wasn't their fault she couldn't shake off her past or the lingering anger about her imprisonment. She hated to even think the word. Once freed, she tried to find her footing, but nothing was the same. Her parents were gone, and the world she'd known had turned into a strange and hostile